What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Malik Washington, back at it again with another episode of the BMB. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to dive right on into the following topic of today's discussion. Today, we are going to talk about something on the more spiritual side. As a precaution or a postscript announcement, that if you do not favor or don't exactly like to talk about topics concerning the spirituality or religion or God, you name it, I suggest to you highly that you go about somewhere else, click off, don't watch. As you know, originally this channel was initially for spiritual purposes anyway. And by spiritual purposes, I'm referring to where it is that my foundation came from, which was the scriptures. And I don't try to impose my will nor what I believe upon anyone. These are just topic of discussions that I have that anyone can enjoy or wish to descend upon or wish to have a discussion about. If they have anything to say at all, whether if they agree or disagree in difference. So if you do not want to watch this video, there are plenty of other videos of mine that you can watch that precede this one that have absolutely nothing to do with God, that have absolutely nothing to do with spirituality whatsoever. I am simply having a discussion about this. If this is something that you do not want to watch, I suggest you go somewhere else. And even if you're a believer, but you seem to have very strong feelings about where you stand, and you perhaps think that my videos about God or my subscriptions of information that I have about God are concerning or strongly disagreeable, that they somehow affect your life, I suggest that you go somewhere else as well. If you do not wish to hear my perspective on things. And once again, this is not a video, neither any videos in the considerable future to be anything pertaining to proselytizing you, to convert you, or anything like that. I am simply a truth seeker, and I provide perspectives. I have my own particular foundation that I follow on a daily basis, that I try to be strong and in line with on a frequent basis. So I'm not looking to, force anybody into what I'm doing, but I will do Abba's work in my own way, shape, or form because I have a purpose just like anyone else does. What that purpose is, I try to seek it out. But I believe in this instance, my way of doing that is being a messenger and providing you all the information you need so that you can decide for yourselves how you wish to live your life. As the scriptures was initially established for the purpose of giving people the ability to decide when the time is right for them to come to Abba. There is no set deadline or time, but it is also often recommended that you don't wait too long because you never know when that time comes. But every man has their time, and I don't know when that appointed time is for you to be able to finally come to that resolve for yourself. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a Christian to do that. As some would probably recommend that you come into their religious or spiritual system, I don't believe that that is a system that is required for you to be able to worship the Father in your own way. You worship God the way that he stated in the scriptures, and that is the system which is prescribed to you, the way that he taught his people. And so you who are going to be followers of the scriptures should do the same thing. Nonetheless, that's what I wanted to throw out there for you guys in case you were wondering. You don't have to watch this. Click off. We can go on to towards the current topic. So without further ado, let's go on ahead and get started. Ladies and gentlemen, I came across a TikTok about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it was a TikTok of a woman who was making this kind of modernist / postmodernist argument. It was more so new ageist. And the argument was concerning choice versus the legislation of righteousness, as she labeled it, or as she spoke of it. She said somewhere along the lines that God is not concerned about the legislation of righteousness. Rather, he is concerned about your choice to bow to him. Now, that particular phrasing was quite interesting, yet, in my humble opinion, it was false in the sense of the way it was worded or the way that it was said, right? Because the entire topic was actually concerning abortion. And so in this young lady's mind, who was pro-choice, she was making the argument that it was okay for people to actually do abortions, even if they do believe in God, because it was their choice to decide by their own volition to remove the child for whatever said reasons that they have. But because they believe in God, that God would eventually forgive them because they follow behind God, irrespective of the fact that they decide to have abortions. Now, I don't personally have the link with me on hand to show you the video. I did see the video personally. I saw it, honestly, I saw it on another person's podcast. I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Ben Shapiro. And he was doing reactions to different TikToks, right? And this was one of the TikToks that had actually came up on his channel. And I just thought after I saw that was just totally false, the way that she was describing her understanding of how she viewed abortion and how she conflated abortion to God accepting the fact that if you make such choices in your life to do the things that you wish to do by your own free will, God would not be so concerned about the legislation of righteousness that he had already prescribed for people to follow, because he knows that man is imperfect. They are not immaculate, and therefore they're going to make mistakes. So even if you were to go and get an abortion for your own particular, or shall I say selfish reasons, there's no accountability for you on that. Now, what this ultimately comes down to is not necessarily even abortion in and of itself. What this comes down to is the ability to either choose your own will or to choose the Father's will when it comes to any or everything pertaining to your life choices, right? A lot of people think that free will is something where because you make the choice to not do something, God will be in favor of what you choose not to do. So if you choose not to have children, God will neither agree nor disagree. If you choose to murder, God will neither agree nor disagree. If you choose to be gay, if you choose to be a liar, if you choose to be a deceiver, manipulator, you name it, God will neither agree nor disagree, neither agree or disagree, because he knows that his creation is flawed. The problem with this mindset of that some people have in this generation, and even the preceding generation that believes in the concept of free will, is that a lot of times we believe free will is predicated upon the fact that if we choose not to, let's say, worship God, that God will accept that. He will accept that judgment. The problem with that understanding is, and as far as from what I've always seen within the scriptures, is that is usually not the case. That when you make a choice not to do something that the Father prescribes, that the Father agrees to the choice of which you prescribe to follow. So what do I mean when I say this? Free will, everyone has that, just like animals have instinct. But does that mean that God agrees with the necessary choice that you make should you choose to do the opposite of what you were created or positioned to do? Absolutely not. I give you a perfect example. When Jonah was supposed to be commissioned to go to Nineveh to preach to the Assyrians, to be integrated into the flock or the pasture of the Most High, Jonah questioned God's reasoning as to why he wanted wicked men in his pasture, knowing that they did nothing according to what the way or the word was in God's eyes. God nonetheless wanted these people in his pasture. It was for his reasoning and his mysterious way only. But yet Jonah questioned it. And so Jonah said, as by his own choice, I'm not going to go preach to the people of Nineveh because they don't belong to you. It was you could say there was a tad bit of envy, but there was also pride. The reason being is because why in the world would you tell the Father who just commissioned you or commanded you to do something? You tell him you're not going to do it. And in spite of that, you think you're going to get away with it. With that being said, God ended up doing what? Okay, fine. You don't want to do it. he ended up, according to the way the story goes, he was swallowed up by a big fish. So I'm guessing he somehow, some way got caught up somewhere where he drowned and a big fish caught him in the process. He ended up being in the belly of this big, huge a water mammal for 3 days and 3 nights. Eventually, he gave in. He caved in. He finally said that he will work. He would go on ahead and do what the Father told him. And eventually, he went to Nineveh and he preached to them. And he was angry with God for a while. Around that time, I think, as the story goes, there was a huge heat wave going on. And so in order to keep Jonah from suffering from a sunstroke, God ended up growing a huge, as it goes, there was a huge leaf that hovered over Jonah's head to keep him from suffering from the heat. And God questioned him and said, "Are you still angry with me?" With that being said, the moral of the story is, if the Abba asked you to do something, you're going to do it, right? Irregardless of if you agree or disagree with God's decision making on a lot of different things, right? That you find to be humanistically wrong, but in his eyes, he may find to be righteous in judgment. You're going to do what he says, irrespective of that choice that you make. For people that believe that God somehow agrees or disagrees with your choices from a neutral standpoint, simply because you're an imperfect, flawed human being, that doesn't mean that God isn't going to do anything about the choice that you make, right? I feel like sometimes when it comes to God, a lot of people forget that God is in a lot of ways just like his creation, and his creation in a lot of ways is just like him. God has the capacity to love just as much as he has the capacity to hate. God has the capacity to be good just as much as he has the capacity to be terrifying. God has the ability to rise up just as much as he has the capacity to debase you or tear you down if you don't do as he says. The scriptures even says in Psalms chapter 1, verse 115, that he does as he pleases. There's no way that you're going to sit here and say that, oh, because I have the choice to do something, that God is not going to be concerned about my choice because I chose to go down that route. We all may choose to be wicked. That doesn't mean that God agrees with wickedness. We all may choose to be our original selves. That doesn't mean that God agrees with the image that you represent. It doesn't represent him. Absolutely not. And most of you who choose to be the persons that you wish to be in this life, because it is your human right to live as you want to live, you all know whether if the creator is pleased or isn't pleased by what you do, because you've read the scriptures yourselves, unless you're this surface level churchgoer who just goes and listens to the pastor, comes right back out of the church and can't even reminisce or garner the information you learned from the church, right? Unless you're just going and, just to appease God in some surface level way to say, oh, I went to church on Sunday, got my hour of a sermon in, and then left back out to act the fool. That's your way of serving the Most High. That's not how that works. You're not going to know what I'm talking about, right? Simply because you're not studying for yourself. You're allowing someone else to study for you. It's understandable. Some people may not perhaps understand the word, so they need a little bit more guidance. They need someone to help them reflect, or they need someone to help them parse out certain details because they don't quite know what's going on in the story. So yeah, you do need a guide, a shepherd, a preacher, a pastor. Moreover, you need a teacher, someone that can help you to understand what this is trying to say or convey to the audience of whom it was directed to. Point being is that a lot of you believe that choice equals righteousness as opposed to obedience equals righteousness. A lot of people think that because I have the ability to choose not to worship the Most High is still going to love me in spite of not choosing to worship him. Scripture says in the book of Revelations that every knee shall bow. There's no way, even if you think that because you don't worship the Most High, that the Most High isn't going to say anything to you, the Most High actually is going to address everyone, even those who don't believe in him, even those who've never seen him, those who have experienced him. Every audience known to man, which is everybody on this earth, is going to see and know who the Father is in the coming times, whenever that time is, that mysterious time shall be. We don't know. Nobody knows. Some people claim to know. Some people try to predict, theorize, you name it, but you will never know. Not even the Son of Man knew. Only the Creator knows. He even says that even the angels in the heaven, the messengers in the heavens, they don't know when that time is coming. All it says is to be prepared for when that time is to come. But that is the entire point of being obedient, because it helps us to practice for what's yet to come in the coming future when his son rules over the earth for 1,000 years. But a lot of people seem to think that because I choose not to do something, that entails or implies God is going to love me anyway because Jesus died on the cross for me. No, 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 no. That's not what that's about. He died for you so that you would have the ability to be able to try again, to be able to get up off your feet. And because you now know the truth, and because now you understand what your sins are, you can go and like he told that woman who committed adultery, but the man she committed adultery with wasn't present in that trial, go and sin no more. A lot of people will say Jesus died on the cross and go and continue to sin forevermore. And that's not what that's all about. You do have a choice as a man and or woman to decide whether if you want to worship the Father or not. You have the choice as a man or woman to decide whether if you believe that God's ways are either good or wicked indifference in your eyesight. That is totally fine. You have a choice to do that. Does that mean that God agrees with your choice? Absolutely not. It's just like being a parent. And if you know what it means to be a parent, or if you are a parent, you should exactly know what that means when what that means to have someone obey you. If you command someone to do something for you, you expect that order to be carried out. If someone decides by their own volition, they don't want to, follow your order, that's insubordination. Okay, fine. You want to be insubordinate. That's fine. That doesn't mean I'm going to agree with it. I'm going to punish you for that. It's just like when you have your own child and you tell your child to go clean the room. Imagine if your son or daughter told you, because you told them to clean your room, no, I'm not cleaning this room. You going to look at them crazy like, excuse me? Who the hell are you talking to? Go clean your room. No, I'm not cleaning your room. I'm not cleaning my room. I know he ain't talking. I know my son or daughter ain't talking to me like that. And I just told them to go do something. That's my point, right? The same way when it comes to following or worshiping the Most High, you can choose not to do it. Doesn't mean that the Father isn't going to do what he's going to do with you. You're going to do what you are commanded to do. If you are told to do something, that is just what's going to happen. Call it coercion, call it not respecting your decision, your choice, because I know nowadays everybody's all about choices, right? Respecting the choice. When it comes to the Creator, nothing you can do about it. Because at the end of the day, the Creator is the Creator. He can compel anyone to do anything that he wants them to do, including the wicked. So even when people are not doing what he wants them to do, he makes them do it anyway. And there's way too many stories where this ends up happening. And if a human is completely insubordinate, he takes them out. It's way too many instances of this happening. That's a dangerous message to send out, to say God cares more about the choice you make to bow down to him, as opposed to the legislation of righteousness. First of all, the legislation of righteousness is what is set in place for you to follow, so that you know how to obey him, so that you know how to get back up and try again when you fail. To sit there and say that your choice matters versus what is written in stone and what is meant for your spirit to internalize is absolutely asinine. You are supposed to follow the Creator through and through. Obedience is a form of sacrifice. You are supposed to give your time to the Father. So when this woman sat there and said that choice matters over the concern of legislation of righteousness, that's stupid. You can't do that. You can if you want to, but if you want to talk about actually sticking to your morals, having tenets, believing in what God had already prescribed for mankind to do, that matters. Every time I do a video. In any case, That matters. Like when literally in the scriptures, when it says to have dominion over the earth, till the earth, be fruitful and multiply. That's what's required of, on average, that is what is required of man and woman to do. That is their usual purpose. When you go outside of that purpose and you decide that you don't want to do those things, and those things have actual consequences, then the repercussions are bound to come upon you. So yes, everyone has a choice to do whatever it is that they want to do in this life. You're absolutely correct. The problem is that doesn't necessarily mean that God is going to accede to that choice. He doesn't have to. You chose that choice. He didn't make that choice. You made that choice. But that doesn't mean that that's the right choice to make. You know what I mean? Maybe some of you do, some of you don't. And that's fine if you don't. My point is, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing wrong with being able to choose. We all choose every day what it is that we will and will not do. And as I always say, you have to ask yourself the ultimate question. Do you put your will before God's, or do you put God's will before yours? Ultimately, when it comes down to all of our sins, it's because of our own wantingness to do those things, because we put God outside of it and we just say we're just going to do what we want to do. In which, for people that choose to do that and they don't care too much for God or religion, you name it, I can respect it. You're a grown man or woman. Do whatever it is that you choose to. That's your deal. But for the people that believe in what they believe in, you in your house, you serve the Father, obey the Father, do as the Father says. I don't care if you are perfect or imperfect. You do what you are commanded to do according to what it is that you stand for. You don't go outside of it because of the ability to choose not to do it. That literally makes no sense. Just because you may have a choice to disobey your parents, it is not the ideal choice to disobey your parents. You're supposed to obey your parents in spite of the fact that you have a choice. So legislation does matter over your choice, in spite of the fact that you have the ability to choose. So I just wanted to leave that right there. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Malik Washington. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good day or good night wherever you reside. I thank you for listening if you got this far. Stay tuned until the next video. And with this, I say peace.